If you're planning or thinking about planning your first trip to Japan, it probably seems difficult knowing exactly where to begin. There's so much to see and there's so much to do. And what about all those rules that Japan is so famous for? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you some key information that's going to make your time exploring in Japan an absolute breeze. Even if you've been before, stick around. I'm sure there's something in here that you didn't know already. Here is 15 things you need to know before traveling in Japan. I'll start the list with this because it's almost certainly the first thing you'll do after arriving at the airport. Transport is incredibly convenient and well run in Japan, but if you want to make your experience just that extra bit smoother, then you'll want to pick up an IC card. They can be topped up with any multiple of 1,000 yen and allow you to pass through station barriers just by placing the card on the contact pad as you walk through. Checking your balance and topping up is also very easy and can be done on one of the numerous ticket machines found in every station. IC cards can be used on trains and buses, with most brands being cross-compatible with similar systems in other cities. Some of the main brands include Pasmo, Suica, Sugoka or Ikoka amongst others. If you're planning to catch a ride on a Shinkansen bullet train, then you can link your IC card to your ticket and book easily online with the Smart EX app. You can click the card up here to get more information about the app from a previous video. As well as being used to pay for transport, more importantly, IC cards can even be used on vending machines. It wouldn't be any kind of exaggeration to say that Japan has an obsession with vending machines. Seriously, these things are everywhere, from obvious places like station foyers to ominous alleyways, and serving as the only landmark to be found for miles on long stretches of country road. In much less civilized countries, luxuries like this would be stripped and sold for parts within 24 hours of being installed. But in Japan, everyone seems to respect the convenience that such machines bring to the community. All these machines accept cash as payments by default, but as previously mentioned, quite a few in the more built-up areas will also accept payment via IC card. This is especially handy when you're stuck on a crowded station platform, desperate for a refreshing bottle of cow piss, when you suddenly remember that you wasted your last bit of spare change on those bloody gachapon machines. The greatest thing about having so many of these machines around is that they allow you to remove one extra step from your daily preparation, because you know wherever you go, you'll always be within 5 meters of a fresh, hot, black wonder. One thing you'll probably notice next to some, but not all vending machines, are small recycling bins. You'd be well advised to make the most of these facilities when you're near one, as public bins can be somewhat of a rarity in Japan. The first time I came here, I couldn't quite figure out how the cleanest country I'd ever seen in my life had no bins. It turns out that most people are just well trained and make a habit of taking their rubbish with them until they either find a bin or probably disposing of it when they get home. If you really are in a pinch and seem to have unwillingly amassed a colossal collection of onigiri wrappers and PET bottles, then your best bet to unload these treasures would be at the nearest convenience store. More often than not, they have bins inside near the front door. Just remember to pay attention to the signage and separate your waste accordingly. When you inevitably do end up in a convenience store, then you'll probably notice that in Japan, they take the meaning of convenience to a whole new level. Short of a new kidney, you can find almost everything in one of the country's many konbini stores. Feeling a little peckish? Not only do they serve food, but they will also heat it up for you and often have a seating area so you can chow down then and there. Just like the previously mentioned vending machines, they also sell hot and cold drinks. Phone about to die? They've got chargers. Made a mess of your t-shirt, getting carried away with a teriyaki cheeseburger? No problem. Need to buy concert or event tickets? Just look for one of these machines. Nudie magazines? Easily accessible to all ages on the lowest shelf of the magazine rack. These stores truly are a modern marvel of service. Most, especially in the cities, are open 24/7 too, so no matter how long you're out partying into the early hours, you'll always be able to grab a snack on the way home. If you want that snack heating up, then you can easily ask the clerk to give it a quick blast in the microwave with the following phrase: Atatamete, kudasai. While you're in the convenience store, you might also want to take this opportunity to withdraw some money from the ATM machine inside. Unlike many other countries I've visited, most of the banks in Japan don't support international cards on their ATM machines. This can easily leave you high and dry at the worst of times. If you're prepared though, then these kinds of situations are easily avoidable. Most of the country's konbini chains have international ATM machines, but I found the consistency of support to be a little hit and miss. To make sure that you're never caught short in a pinch, I would advise seeking out your nearest 7-Eleven. Every single one of the dozens of stores I've visited in Japan so far has had an ATM machine that accepted various types of foreign bank cards. The reason I bring up ATMs is because you'll be visiting them frequently. Despite Japan's outward image of being the high-tech epicenter of the world, it's still a country that very much runs on paper money. This isn't always a bad thing though, and being able to get 1,000 yen for just 7 measly pounds makes me feel like I've got a comfortable lead in a game of Monopoly. It does appear to slowly be getting better though, as I'm able to use my card for payments in a fair few stores when shopping for things like groceries, clothes or electronics. When you might run into trouble though is when it comes to food and drink. Many small food stalls and establishments aren't equipped with card accepting registers, and unfortunately, these places usually sell the best food. Also, a lot of restaurants feature a ticket machine system to speed up the ordering process. The bad side? No cash, no food. These machines often don't accept anything but real money. I've seen the odd one installed with the same IC card reading tech as the train station vending machines, but these are few and far between, so I would never ever bank on it. A lot of questions I see about travelling in Japan often revolve around money. How much should I bring for a week? How much is food? How much is travel? Obviously, all this is subjective to your own vacation plans and preferences, but on a general level, I would say that the cost of travelling in Japan is roughly the same compared to places like England, America, or Europe. It really just depends on what you prioritise. I do intend to go into this subject in a little bit more detail in a future video, but for now I can safely say that if you like eating and or drinking, then the cost is fairly low. Public transport is also reasonably priced, especially around the city. The prices will start to look a tad on the pricey side if you want to take the Shinkansen to another city though. Comparatively, I think the price is reasonable for the reliability and cleanliness of the trains and buses. Perhaps on an average day your itinerary might look something like this. Breakfast 600 to 1,000 yen. Lunch 600 to 1,500 yen. Dinner 800 to 3,000 yen. Transport 500 to 1,500 yen, depending on where you're travelling. I would say you can easily get all of your essentials for around 5,000 yen a day. If you plan on doing a lot of travelling between cities, then it'll definitely be worth checking out the highly cost-effective JR Pass. These all-inclusive train tickets are only available to tourists and are designed to get you to visit as much of the country as possible. At the time of recording, there are 3 main passes available for different durations. 7 days, 14 days and 21 days, priced at $273, $418 and $554 respectively. These passes allow you to take an unlimited amount of trips on any JR train in the cities and include most Shinkansen bullet trains as well. For a comparison, a return trip Shinkansen ticket from Tokyo to Kyoto is around $235 on its own. When you factor in the local trains you'll no doubt be riding on a daily basis and possibly fitting in a trip to a third city within the week, the potential savings are quite noticeable. If you're looking for the biggest bang for your buck, then it's probably also worth knowing about Japan's ludicrously low-priced all-you-can-eat or all-you-can-drink deals called tabihodai or nomihodai. While I'm sure the concept of all-you-can-eat is not a new one to you, all-you-can-drink is most certainly going to appeal to people looking for a good night out. Usually starting from around 2,000 yen, nomihodai deals usually give you between 90 minutes and 2 hours to order as much as you like, while interspersing your drinks with a selection of shareable dishes. As it's not uncommon for Westerners to see these offers as a challenge instead of a good deal, sensibly they are rarely ever advertised in English. If there's 2 words you learn to read in Japanese before you visit, make sure it's these 2. Again, all these numbers are wildly variable depending on what you want to do. Planning your activities in advance should leave you well enough prepared, and there'll be no reason why your trip to Japan should destroy your bank balance. Most people heading out to a nomihodai are probably on course to have a pretty lively evening, but like all good things, it must come to an end at some point and you'll want to head back to your hotel. Chances are you'll be taking the train back to where you're staying, so now seems like an appropriate time to mention one of the worst things about Japan. The trains don't run after midnight. For a city that never seems to sleep, Tokyo's transportation system seems to have a pretty inappropriate curfew. Well, okay, there are some trains after midnight, but not many, and they all terminate shortly after. The best way to avoid missing your ride back is to open up Google Maps on your phone, search for directions to your hotel, click the little tab that says Depart At, and then press Last. This should give you a fairly reliable time to aim for if staying out to the last train at 5 AM but accidentally falling asleep next to a fully suited salaryman in McDonald's doesn't sound that appealing. Since you've got the app open, let's talk about another slightly confusing thing, the Japanese address system. When navigating around Japan, in most respects, is no different to any other countries, but there is one thing you should be aware of. The addresses in Japan are backwards. They start with the postcode and finish with the building number. To clear things up, let's take a look at a typical Japanese address. The first 7 numbers are the postcode. The T-looking symbol at the start is just the postal mark used to denote a postcode. This can be omitted when searching an address on Google Maps. The next line is the city, followed by the district with the suffix ku. You'll then have the name of the smaller local area and a number followed by the word chome. Within each area there are several chomes to break it down into more manageable chunks. The number directly after chomi is the block within said chomi area, and the one at the end is the number of the building within that block. Sometimes this line will have the chomi omitted and be written as 3 numbers separated by dashes. The last line will most likely be the name of the business or apartment number within that building. If you think about it, starting with the largest area and narrowing down the search area by each line is actually a very logical way to do things. Actually, while we're on the subject of getting around, even if you've deciphered the address of where you're heading to, there's still a chance you could get lost along the way. The most likely location for this to occur would be one of Japan's many gargantuan underground metropolises. I mean, train stations. Let's go straight to the main offender, Shinjuku Station. This is the biggest and busiest train station in the world, with an average of 3.5 million commuters every single day, 36 different platforms and over 200 exits. Even living just 4 stops away from Shinjuku myself, every time I'm forced to go there for a connection, I feel like Frodo being told to take another trip back to Mordor just for the fun of it. The problem I see most tourists having is trying to figure out which exit to take once they've arrived at their destination. Now, for the most part, Japanese train stations are well signposted, but in the big stations like Shinjuku, there are so many bloody signs that it's ironically become impossible to find where you're going. There is an easy solution to this problem though. One more time, let's return to our reliable old friend, Google Maps. Just open up the app and look for the place where you want to go. Now check which direction it's in relation to the station. Is it on the north, east, south or west side? Now zoom all the way into the station on the map and you will see a whole bunch of little numbers. These are actually the numbers of the station exits. Once you've found the exit that is closest to where you're going, return your head to its default environment scanning mode and look for an exit sign with that number on. These signs are a bright yellow colour and are almost impossible to miss. Follow the signs to your desired exit and within minutes you should be out of the swarming commuter hive and back to the breathable air of the surface world. Surprisingly, other places in Japan with less breathable air are restaurants. A fact that often takes many visitors by surprise is that you can still smoke inside many restaurants, bars and clubs. Western chains like McDonald's will often be completely smoke-free, but many Japanese establishments are less strict. Some places do have separate smoking and non-smoking areas, but while this does sound like a good idea, the two sections are often separated by no more than an utterly redundant divider that completely fails in its job to separate the smoke from regular, nice air. As backwards as it sounds, smoking on someone while they're eating is absolutely fine, but smoking on the street in Japan is not permitted in most big cities as it's considered a bother to pedestrians using the same sidewalk. Yes, I'm being 100% serious. If you do want to smoke, then you can often find a dedicated smoking area nearby. Sometimes it's just an open air space surrounded by a few dividers, but you can also find indoor sealed smoking rooms if you really want to stew in that tangy tobacco musk. Except for its fairly loose position towards smoking in public spaces, Japan is a country well known for its rules, and believe me, there are a lot of them. There's a few things you can do to make sure that you're as unobtrusive on the culture as possible during your visit. Here's a few tips to avoiding any potential faux pas or embarrassing situations. Don't talk too loudly or take phone calls on the train. All around the carriage you'll see signs telling you to set your phone to manner mode. This is what Japanese people call silent mode. Don't stand on the wrong side of the escalator. This might differ from city to city, but generally one side is for standing, the other for walking. It's always obvious which is which. Don't misuse your chopsticks. Rubbing your chopsticks together, sticking them upright in your food, and passing things from chopsticks to chopsticks are all considered as quite offensive behaviour and should be avoided at all times. Don't try to tip. This mainly applies to the Americans out there, but tipping in Japan is avoided as it can often make the recipient feel awkward about receiving extra praise they probably feel they don't deserve. Don't take photos of people without asking. You'd think this would be painfully obvious as it's a social standard in almost every country, but when in Japan, a lot of tourists can seem to forget their manners. I mainly see this behaviour with women wearing kimonos. Usually, if you ask politely, most people are happy to snap a selfie with you, so why not try this useful phrase before hitting the shutter button?
すみません、一緒に写真を撮ってもいいですか?
The best way to remember most of these points is, anytime you think that you might be being annoying, you probably are. This is your cue to stop. There's also another taboo that's quite synonymous with Japan. I'm talking, of course, about tattoos. Known as irazumi in Japanese, tattoos have a long history in the country, but are most infamously known for their connection to the Yakuza. While it may feel painfully obvious that no tourists are secretly undercover Yakuza thugs, the negative stigma that comes with tattoos in Japan is still strong regardless. While I found that having tattoos myself doesn't really affect my daily interactions, it does make it more difficult to partake in one of Japan's most traditional activities, Bathing in an onsen. Many onsen bathhouses have rules forbidding anyone with tattoos to enter. Again, this stems from a time when the Yakuza were much more prevalent and the sight of foreigners with tattoos was a rare occurrence. Don't worry though, times are changing. Quite a few establishments are now opening their doors to tattoo visitors, and in the lead up to the 2020 Olympics, many more are being encouraged to follow suit too. A quick Google search will bring up many helpful lists of pre-approved tattoo-friendly onsen. You could also check out tattoofriendly.jp, which as well as onsen covers gyms, swimming pools, beaches and traditional ryokan all across the country. It's a pretty unreasonable notion that you'd be expected to learn Japanese before coming to Japan on a short vacation, but unless you're in the middle of a big city, you may struggle to find many people with any real proficiency in English. For this reason, it's probably a good idea to learn a few basic phrases before you go. Just like asking someone to take a photo, there are a few other more simple phrases that are really going to help you out in tricky situations.
Oh, excuse me, sorry. Ah, sumimasen. Yes. Hi. No. Yeah. Oh, that's okay, thank you. Ah, 大丈夫です. Thank you. Arigatou. Thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu. I don't understand. Wakarimasen.
This last one is a bonus phrase and not essential, but if you'd like to thank a host for taking care of you, then you can express your gratitude by saying,
Arigatou gozaimasu. Osewa ni narimashita.
If you think all of this sounds horribly complicated, then don't worry, it's much easier than you think. I'll even leave you an easy to read list down in the video description so you can come back and bone up before your flight. To finish up, I want to tell you about something that is possibly the most important thing on this list. It's actually illegal to travel in Japan and not carry your passport with you at all times. If for any reason you get stopped by the police and you're unable to present your ID, then you may be faced with an abrupt end to your trip of a lifetime. Most police officers I've encountered in Japan are usually calm-tempered and would probably be at least willing to take you to your hotel or hostel so that you can show them your passport before deporting you. Just in case though, make sure you've always got your passport and visa documents zipped in a secure but quickly accessible pocket in your bag to avoid any unnecessary altercations. It's probably also worth mentioning that the same applies for residence cards if you're planning to move to Japan on a student, working holiday, or any other kind of visa. Being caught in violation of this law can also land you with a pretty hefty 200,000 yen fine. Converting that into any currency will come up as a lot of bloody money. Right, well, I think I've talked for long enough, but if you made it this far into the video, then you're now well enough equipped to enjoy a fairly laid-back and stress-free adventure in Japan. If you happen to be a Japan travel veteran and think that I missed something, then please head down to the comments and we'll start an additional tips list down there. If you like this video, then please subscribe to Kantan Japan and click the bell notification for instant updates on future videos. Hit the like button and consider supporting the channel via Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.